As many of you already know, Abdul El-Sayed has won the Democratic primary in Michigan.
Abdul El-Sayed, the son-in-law of a leading member of several brotherhood groups, won Michigan's Democrat primary for U.S. Senate.
Michigan voters and Americans more broadly face a consequential choice in the upcoming Senate race. As you know, Abdul Muhammad El-Sayed has won the Democratic primary, and if he wins in the general, he will become the first Muslim senator in U.S. history. A recent examination by Patriotic Peach points to a broader picture. With the facts, she lays out specific aspects of his background, funding sources, public statements, and associations that merit some careful fucking review.
Okay, we begin with his documented financial ties. He has reportedly accepted more than $100,000 in campaign contributions from CAIR, the Council of American Islamic Relations. Multiple states have now formally designated CAIR a terrorist organization due to its established links to Hamas. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis issued an executive order classifying CAIR as a foreign terrorist organization, the second high-profile Republican governor to take step in recent weeks. The order specifically cites CAIR's connections to Hamas, the same group responsible for October 7th in 2023, the massacre that murdered approximately 1,200 people in Israel, mind you. CAIR predictably denies all such ties, but last month, Texas Governor Greg Abbott followed with a similar designation. CAIR is already challenging that order in federal court, framing it as an unconstitutional punishment for its political views. Well, speaking of terrorism, you will recall the Hezbollah-inspired individual who drove his vehicle laden with explosives into a synagogue and preschool in Michigan. This was Abdul El-Sayed's public response to the grieving families. Okay.
I mean is that hurt people. Then maybe if we're serious about ending the hurt, we should stop hurting people.
Hurt people, in a tidy therapeutic phrase. Later, when the Islamist dictator Ayatollah Khomeini, I think I'm saying his name right, I'm not quite sure, but he was eliminated, this was El-Sayed's response.
Point of destabilized region. I also want to remind you guys that there are a lot of people in Dearborn who are sad today. So, I just don't want to comment on Khomeini at all.
Yikes!
I mean, this fucking guy. If you cannot outright condemn a terrorist attack on a church because you might upset Muslims in Dearborn. All right, hold on. Two separate things here. One, that kind of exposes how you feel about Islamic terrorist attacks on Christians, as well as the people that you were afraid to offend. And it exposes a deep incompatibility with your worldview in the place you live. Because this is America. This is the West. We have a different morality. And I urge you people to understand that every single ideology wants power, and what they are willing to do to get it is the difference. And you have to look at the underlying foundations of whatever they believe to make sense of their actions. And two, why are we supporting a guy who can't even comment on the death of the supreme tyrannical leader of Iran, who did a bunch of evil shit and explicitly labeled the United States the Great Satan? I'll tell you why. Because he's afraid the other people who think America is Satan will get mad? Think about that. People who hate America trying to get power in America by not offending people who hate America.
Yeah, I want you to observe the pattern here, okay? The same political faction that routinely labels President Trump a fascist dictator falls silent, or worse, mourns the death of an actual fascist. You can't even make this up. He remained carefully restrained. Of course, he did not wish to alienate a particular population in Michigan. No, not the broader state, mind you, specifically Dearborn, which today increasingly resembles this.
Each of them translated in Arabic.
The Arabic signage there dominates. Women appear not merely in hijabs, but in full-on burqas. In their faces, their hair, their eyes are completely covered. I mean, young girls are similarly veiled from head to toe. This is the landscape America has permitted to take root, and El-Sayed asserts that America was founded on racism.
America was founded on racism.
A familiar progressive refrain. Are there racists in America? Of course. But measured against the rest of the world, the United States remains the most open and multi-ethnic societies in human history. I mean, the reality is inconvenient to those who require perpetual grievance. Then came this moment when he stated the quiet part out loud.
Now, you might not hate racist Muslims, but I'll tell you, Muslims definitely hate you.
And he has the audacity to brand others as racist while openly declaring that Muslims hate you. That statement is not an aberration. It is consistent with explicit doctrinal language regarding the treatment of non-believers, aka the infidels. And I do want to address the Quran directly because I have spent more time studying it, and I'm still learning, but there are peaceful Muslims, of course, and that is not in dispute. There are also the extremes. And I would argue that the extremes are actually more faithful to the historical trajectory of the religion. The peaceful passages exist. They date primarily to the first 12 years that Muhammad spent in Mecca, when Muhammad's movement remained small and relatively powerless, producing at most a few hundred conversions within the first 12 years of spreading Islam. Compared to the explosive early growth of Christianity, when peaceful persuasion failed, Muhammad relocated to Medina. The message changed. He became a military and political leader. Raids, executions, and the choice of conversion or death became standard. Islam did not primarily expand through voluntary conversion. It expanded through conquest. And the peaceful verses belong to that earlier period. The later dominant doctrine does not. So not every Muslim is violent, but the religion itself, in its classical and historically practiced form, is. And before his death, Muhammad is recorded as having said, "May Allah curse the Jews and the Christians." And before his death, Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do." Draw your own conclusions there. You know, Jesus raised the dead, Muhammad killed the living.
She's right about the three phases. Islamic doctrine and practice outline three sequential stages of expansion relative to non-Muslim societies. In the first phase, when Muslims are a weak minority, the approach is conciliatory and defensive. In the second phase, once numbers and institutional strength increase, the posture shifts to assertive political demands, parallel legal and cultural systems, and pressure for accommodations of Sharia norms. In the third phase, when the demographic or political dominance is achieved or approaches, the historical pattern moves towards the imposition of Islamic governance, the subordination or elimination of competing authorities, like Christians and Jews, and the restriction of non-Muslim rights under the classical category of dhimmi, or worse. We in the United States are in the second phase. The United Kingdom is already in the third. The trajectory is not some abstract fear-mongering. The United States and the West were founded on a Christian ethic, informed by Enlightenment thinking. Many today prefer to deny the Christian foundation, yet theism is not peripheral to our constitutional order. It is structural. The Declaration of Independence states, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men were created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Remove the Creator, and those rights cease to be unalienable. They become contingent, political agreements, granted or withdrawn according to the will of whoever holds power, or even worse, the damn majority. So this is the point. If you place into authority people whose fundamental worldview is antithetical to that which the country was built on, the resulting political and social order do not simply change a little bit here and there. It will be transformed from the inside out with a different understanding of man, woman, authority, the good, and how old a little girl can be before she's married.
Well, they say one is known by the company one keeps, and El-Sayed has closely associated himself with Hasan Piker, who actively campaigned with him and who has stated that America deserved the attacks of September 11th.
America deserved 9/11, dude. I'm saying it.
And here is El-Sayed's reaction when confronted about Hasan's statement.
When did we start bending to cancel culture? When did we start saying that cancel culture was okay? Because clearly on your show, you have a number of people who you don't agree with, including me. And I think it's important for all of us who want to win votes, who want to build America, to go and talk to anyone, anywhere.
And we only have limited time, so I don't want to cut you off. But I'm talking about someone standing with the #1 state sponsor of terror. I'm talking about condemning the worst attack on America. And if you want to vote in a country where we consider This event brought us to our knees. I'm talking about speaking to moral clarity specifically about that. I'm happy to have you on to talk about the President of the United States any other time, but would you speak to what he said about, excuse me, will you speak to what he said about 9/11 and October the 7th?
Well, it's important to talk about context.
And then here is Piker's response when El-Sayed faced criticism.
Like everyone being like, Abdullah has a ton of work to do mending bridges. Here's the fucking take nuke for you, okay? You are all unbelievably Islamophobic pieces of shit.
Wow, good one. Islamophobia. Right on cue. Never heard of that one before. A phobia is an irrational fear. Concern about a political religious ideology with a documented history of conquest, doctrinal supremacy, and present-day theocratic regimes is not irrational, particularly when this is what supporters in Dearborn have publicly chanted.
Upon the head of America.
There's also this revealing exchange in which El-Sayed, a supporter, and Hasan Piker discuss strategy. The supporter remarks that voters are stupid and that the path to victory requires concealing the truth. And watch as El-Sayed nods and Piker agrees, going, yeah, for sure.
Everything is people aren't stupid. This politics of no translation is going to be the way forward.
No, for sure.
Money on politics, money in your pocket, Medicare for all. No one has to decipher what the hell that means.
That and I just want people to be like.
Also, El-Sayed routinely presents himself as a physician. His LinkedIn profile still lists the title. In 2018, Crane's Detroit business interview, he stated, I am a physician because I have an MD, but I'm also a physician because of the work that I've dedicated my career to. He said something like, when I took my Hippocratic oath, that is still an oath, and I use that to guide my work today. And you know what? The reality is more precise. Although he does hold an MD, he has never held a medical license in Michigan, New York, or any state for that matter. He never completed a residency, and his documented clinical experience consists of medical school rotations. He once described the experience as cosplaying a doctor under Michigan law. The professional title physician is generally reserved for those licensed to practice medicine. It's roughly equivalent to someone like me with I graduated with a degree in psychology, and then I dropped out halfway getting my master's degree, and I did go to school to become a clinical psychologist, but the credential does not match the claim. I'm not a practicing psychologist. The progressive reaction to his victory has been telling. Just see how the left has reacted to this.
Breaking news. It is 12:58 a.m. Steve Kornacki finally announced it. Abdul El-Sayed has won the Michigan primary! And I'm from Wisconsin! And I am cheering so loud. Oh my God. Thank you, Michigan. Thank you. Oh my God.
It's always the white liberal women, bro.
Ya Allah! Congratulations, Abdul!
And these are often the same voices who costume themselves in Handmaid's Tale attire when claiming American women are oppressed. And you know what? The irony is lost on them. Margaret Atwood drew substantial inspiration from the status of women under Islamic rule regimes in which a woman can still be beaten or killed for an uncovered strand of hair. Yet she's chanting for his victory. Yay! Yay! We're gonna be women in the Handmaid's Tale. I love that for us. Now consider a selection of his policy positions. So he has been advocating Medicare for all and a fully universal healthcare system. So that means both legal and illegal. He also wants to grant amnesty to every single undocumented immigrant. Cancellation of medical debt. Wonder who's gonna be paying for that. Higher marginal tax rates on income above $1 million and a wealth tax on billionaires. So these proposals ignore basic fiscal reality. According to Tax Foundation analysis of IRS data, the top 50% of taxpayers already pay 96.8% of all federal income taxes. The bottom 50% contribute to 3.2%. The top 1% alone pay 38.4%. The top 5% pay roughly 60%, the top 10% pay 72%, and the top 25% pay 87%. Yet the refrain continues that the wealthy are insufficiently taxed. He also has called for the abolition of immigration and customs enforcement, the restructuring of border enforcement, the defunding of police, and broader policies of decarceration. President Trump's assessment was characteristically direct. Here's what President Trump had to say. For our great Republican senators, friends of mine, all please be advised that the Communist Democrat Senate candidate from Michigan, Abdul El-Sayed, is touting, as perhaps the single most important point, the termination of the filibuster. I watched yesterday, and he's gone termination crazy. If he succeeds, the Democrats will gain 4 senators, 8 congressmen, many electoral and popular votes, stacked Supreme Court with 23 justices. And I will be, sadly, despite the great job we are doing, the last Republican president, President Donald J. Trump. And oddly enough, Abdul El-Sayed did retweet that from President Trump. He said, couldn't have said it better myself.
I mean, it's honestly crazy, bro. These people literally say it with their own mouths what their plan is. No immigration enforcement, just make everyone legal. They don't ever want to see another Republican president. They want to stack the Supreme Court. They want to ensure that a Democrat is always in power. I mean, does this sound like democracy to you? Does it sound like a democracy you want to be in? Does it sound honest? Does it sound like it's moral? Does it sound like these people have your best interest in mind or power in mind?
My point I'm getting at here is America must confront a very uncomfortable truth. Classical Islamist doctrine is not compatible with the foundational principles of the West. Freedom of religion presupposes mutual recognition of individual, conscious, and equal protection under secular law. Consider the parallel in Britain. There are currently approximately 24 to 25 Muslim members of the House of Commons. In England, just a few years ago, from 2020 to 2021, Oliver was the most popular boy's name, followed by Noah in 2022, and from 2023 and onward, Muhammad has held the top position and has not relinquished it. That shift is not accidental. It reflects demographic reality. Having failed to conquer by conventional invasion, the strategy has adapted. Taqiyya is when Muslims are allowed to lie in order to further Islam. So they can lie about anything in the Quran to further the message of Allah. Positions of political power are sought. Laws are gradually reshaped. The long-term objective of many classical jurists remain the implementation of Sharia. Consider the sequence of holy days. Martin Cedra said this, and I just wanted to repeat it because it's so important. So Muslim has partnered with the left, but what they don't realize is they have to go through the Jews and the Christians, and then they're coming for the left. Consider the sequence of the holy days. Fridays belong to Islam, Saturday to Judaism, Sunday to Christianity, and Monday, in effect, to secular progressivism. The stated priority of certain Islamist doctrines is the elimination of the Jews, followed by the Christians, and then the secular left should not assume it is exempt. This is not an alliance. It's a wolf in sheep's clothing. America, take note of Abdul El-Sayed.
So there you have it. That should be enough for any sane American to understand that these people aren't your friends. They think you're dumb, and they have to hide their end goals from you in order to gain your vote. El-Sayed has received funding from CAIR, which has been deemed a terrorist organization. He campaigns around with Hasan Piker, who, by the way, would like to stack the Supreme Court, get rid of the presidency, and like you heard here, Hasan says that America deserved 9/11. That's fucking crazy, bro. These people are unhinged and would like to literally burn every single structure that built the West down, silence all opposition with bullshit slogans like Islamophobia and racist, and they would rebuild their fantasy utopia in the ashes of our civilization. And on the other hand, maybe they will rebuild an Islamic Ameristan. Neither option sounds quite appealing to me. The slogans won't work anymore, and we can finally question things that used to be considered forbidden. But watching content and talking shit online only works to an extent. Do the research yourself. Find out what your candidates believe in, and then compare that with the policies they push, and then look at the words they say. In some cases, like with Francisca Hong, who believes that we should get rid of Thanksgiving, and also campaigns with Hasan Piker, it might not even matter what they say because they're going to lie to you anyways. I don't think people understand how bad things can get if you don't get involved, get informed, and use what power you do have and vote. Vote for Mike Rogers if you live in Michigan. I've heard many of my friends say that they don't care until it affects them. Well, my friends, once it's at your front door, it will be entirely too late. But don't take my word for it. Look at the UK. Go watch the Tommy Robinson-Oxford Union debate. The girl who opened it started by stating if it wasn't for their protection, Tommy would quite literally have been cooked.
Known to his hooligans as Tommy Robinson. Stephen, there is a crowd outside rioting against you tonight, and without the protection and generosity of a Muslim Palestinian president and a mostly South Asian executive committee, you would be quite literally cooked.
cooked. Aristotle wrote about the stages of a civilization, and we are in the transitioning phases of democracy or extreme liberty to tyranny. There is no doubt, looking at the way people are voting, with 1/3 of Democrats identifying with socialism, which has historically always led to authoritarianism and or economic ruin, really. Just think about Maoist China, the Soviet Union, Venezuela. Hasan Piker also praised Mao, so Ted Cruz, like him or not, reveals their true intentions right here.
Abdul El-Sayed, the son-in-law of a leading member of several brotherhood groups, won Michigan's Democrat primary for U.S. Senate. Probably explains why no Democrats are here and none intend to attend. Because their campaign is now openly embracing terrorist organizations waging war on America. It also explained how to get there. It called on the Brotherhood to, quote, master the art of coalition building, and to, quote, absorb, contain, and cooperate with the existing Islamic organizations in order to advance its mission in North America. History has taught Americans the danger of dismissing determined jihadist movements because their ambitions seem too extreme to be real.
So take this how you want, but do the research yourself. Decide what you stand for and what kind of country you want your children to grow up in. Like and share the video with everybody that you know, especially if you're from Michigan. And while you're at it, stay unchained.